Good morning, everyone, and welcome to River City Plus, the show after the show. We are headed into a wonderful weekend, and we want to make sure that you have extra information that can help you and potentially some of your loved ones. So I have two lovely ladies in the studio joining me on River City Plus today, and we are talking about ataxia. Now, Regina, I've been communicating with you, and you were kind enough to reach out to me and start explaining this to me because I was not familiar with it. So for maybe some of our guests who feel the same way, can you explain just what ataxia is and some of the symptoms?
You know what? I'm going to actually hand that off to Kyle.
You got it.
Yeah, ataxia is a neurological disorder. It's a disease of the cerebellum in the brain, which is the part of your brain in the back here that controls motor function and movement. So people with ataxia have symptoms really similar to people with Huntington's, ALS, Parkinson's, but it's rare, and you might not even have heard of somebody with ataxia until you meet somebody with ataxia. It's a devastating diagnosis because there's no cure for it, and the treatments are in development, but there's currently only one drug approved for one specific type, and there's dozens of different types. So if you get the disease, you know that you're going to have a possibility of passing on your children if you have the genetic types.
So again, this is, you just mentioned that this is genetic. So this is really something that can be unexpected if you don't know that this gene is in your family.
Right. There are some forms that are not genetic, but there are some that are. So it really depends on which type. But if you know that one of your parents has it, you have the ability to inherit it, and you can also pass it on to your children.
Wow. And so when you're talking about some of the symptoms and how you're getting to function in that everyday life, what does a snapshot of that look like for somebody with ataxia?
Well, they're going to have a stumbling gait. They're going to have slurred speech. They might have trouble with their vision, with fine motor skills like handwriting. So if you walked into a grocery store and you saw somebody stumbling and looks like they're drunk, I mean, that's what a lot of people with ataxia will encounter, and there are actually, sometimes there will be people who get stopped and by security or police since they think that they're actually drunk and they're under the influence, but they have this disease. They have a disease that they can't control.
And so the reason I asked about the symptoms is because, when I was reading this, and Regina, thank you for sharing these images with us, getting to see what some of the symptoms are, because this isn't something that's frequently diagnosed or in like a regular physical or something like that. So it's important if you start to see these symptoms in a loved one, and maybe you're having a regular doctor visit going like, oh, no, you're fine. Oh, no, but it's age. It's really important to know that this could be a potential diagnosis. So Regina, how did you get involved?
Well, what happened was my mother started having symptoms. She started going to see a doctor, and at first they just thought it was extreme, like vertigo, because she was having issues with her balance, and then it progressed and just got worse. She ended up seeing a specialist at Johns Hopkins, and that's when she officially got diagnosed with it. But it took years before they gave her the actual proper diagnosis, so we know what to do.
Yeah, and so had you even heard of ataxia before your mom was diagnosed with it?
No, never heard of it at all. Not once.
Yeah, I mean, because I know that it was something brand new to me. And is this you with your mother here? It's a beautiful photo. So, I had not heard of it until you connected with me. And when I did start to research it, that's one thing that I thought was so interesting, were how many people were misdiagnosed with things. From vertigo all the way to dementia even,
right,
and ALS. So a lot of misdiagnosis. What is it, Kyle, that typically maybe throws off medical professionals when they're trying to diagnose ataxia?
Well, there's a lot of similarities, like you said, to other diseases that are also affecting movement and coordination. The word ataxia means incoordination. So it's also confusing because that's not only the name of the disease, it's also the name of the symptom. So there's really a lot of different types, and even though it's rare, there's probably, I think, close to 300 different types of ataxia. So even within our rare community, we have people with all these different types. So that makes it really hard for somebody who's a neurologist to have the specialty of being a movement disorder specialist and be able to recognize those symptoms and ferret out exactly what somebody has.
And I know it's so incredibly challenging because, like you said, there is not a current cure. Hopefully we're having this conversation one day and we're talking about this great cure to come. But are there ways to manage symptoms, or is there a way to combat ataxia in any way that you found effective?
Well, a lot of people have tried things like diet modification, things like that. So, but mostly it's going to be a non-drug type thing. well, there are some drugs that will treat some of the symptoms, like if you're having tremors, there are drugs that can help treat that kind of a thing. There are drugs that can help some of the symptoms, but they're not going to treat the ataxia itself.
So when I was reading online, it really encouraged a lot of people to work on like things like their balance,
Yes.
things that you would do for fall training, potentially for a fall prone person, things like that. They can really help, making
Right.
sure you have a strong core, a strong back, because those are muscles that help you and kind of tense up if you do have challenges with your gait and things like that. So, great resources. And I think that can lead us to the 5K that you guys are organizing just to bring awareness. Like you said, this is not something that either of us knew about before this, before your mother's diagnosis, before this conversation with you ladies. So what are you hoping that this will do? What is this going to bring to the community?
What I'm hoping that this is going to do is to, one, bring awareness is what I'm definitely hoping for, and also bring in the funds that's needed for foundations like NAF to actually do the research that's required to ensure that people have the proper treatment and support system that they need to go through this for individuals who have been diagnosed with it and for caretakers like myself. That's what I'm hoping that is going to happen after this event.
Do you have any advice for other caretakers who maybe have a loved one or a friend who is going through this? Because caretaker burnout is something that's very real.
It's definitely very real. And what I'm very appreciative that I have a very close family. So we take on the responsibility, right? I take care of my mother full time, but my brothers step in and ensure that I have time for myself too. Like they'll give me a weekend break. Like today I'm here, my brother has my mom, So I would definitely say that they need a support system, and it's okay to take care of yourself. I know at one point my doctor was starting to get a little worried about me because my blood pressure was up and I was just stressed. But he was like, Regina, you got to take care of yourself. So I started exercising, and that helped me tremendously. I don't enjoy it. It's not nothing I absolutely love, but I know the importance of it, that it helps me mentally be able to deal with everything that's going on. And another thing to remember is the individual is going from being totally independent to now depending on you. So you have to have patience as you both are getting to know a new role that you're playing.
Yeah. And that's tough because I'm sure, your mom, just a vibrant, bright, very independent woman. Anytime we start to lose independence or say so, even in a job when maybe a responsibility is taken away or delegated elsewhere, it's like, wait, so any advice for someone who is dealing with this diagnosis or, having to go through this from the patient side, because I feel like that would be so challenging, kind of similar to like what you said about ALS, when your body's starting to give up on you.
I tend to tell my mom, like, there will be moments where she's like, I wish I could just wash the dishes. I wish I could just drive myself to the store, because she may ask me to do something and I can't get to it right at that point. And you'll see that she kind of gets into a moment of, I wish this wasn't my condition. Right. But just reminding at the same time, and I'm speaking from somebody who's not actually experiencing it, right? But bringing back to their memory, well, let's be thankful for XYZ. My mom was just saying, oh, Regina, I wish I could just be standing up there with you. Mom, there's some people who can't stand at all. So we're going to be grateful that you can still use this walker. You have to bring it back sometimes to remember what to be thankful for.
Yeah. And so, just any last thoughts? And also, I'd love to hear your perspective, and also just how we can continue to support you, with the 5K, but then also just throughout the year.
Yeah, the foundation has a two-part mission: to fund research for treatments and a cure, and to support the lives of people living with ataxia. So we've got a network of support groups. There's one in the Jacksonville area that was recently formed. We've got educational webinars going on constantly. Yoga is one of them. We also had core strengthening at our annual patient conference, which was just in Orlando last month. And our welcome speaker was Bill Nye, the science guy, who is in a family that has ataxia. He doesn't have it himself, but his family does. And so he's helping us spread the word about ataxia. So if you go to ataxia.org, you can find lots of resources from a support side and lots of information on research, things you can get involved in. and help support people with ataxia. And of course, you can hit the donate button and help not only for Regina's event, but for anything that we're doing.
Fantastic. Ladies, thank you so much. And Duval, don't forget, I always tell you have one of three things. You have time, talent, or treasure. Please share one of those with the Ataxia Foundation. They would love to have your help and support. Ladies, thank you so much for sharing your morning with us on River City Plus.
Thank you for having us.
Everybody, you have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we will see you Monday bright and early for River City Live.